Hey guys, and welcome to the first video of Toneology. So in this lesson we're just kind of going over the basic knobs on our amp, and of course my amp isn't necessarily going to be the exact same amp as yours. So essentially what we're going to be going over is the knobs, what they mean, and how to adjust them to find our specific tone that we might like. So I'll go over kind of how I figure out what I like in my tone and how I adjust knobs. And then later in the series you'll learn how to adjust some of the knobs, if not all of them, to get tones that you might hear in modern music such as rock and roll, blues, or just a general clean tone. So without further ado, let's jump into the amp. So the amp in front of me is a Valtone TAR 20G Asphalt. So it's a desktop size little box. As you can see, here's my hand. It's pretty tiny. So essentially the amp itself is nothing crazy, very basic. We have 6 knobs, an input jack. On the back there is an effects loop in and out, as well as a headphone jack out, an aux in, and a speaker out. So I'm not going to look at the back very much. I just kind of want to tell you guys how to use the knobs to find your tone, because your tone starts with your guitar and then your amp. So assuming you already have your guitar picked out, we'll go into the amp. So I'll go ahead and turn this on. And then we'll hear kind of what my clean tone, my rock tone would be. Turn the reverb down a little bit. So that would be my typical go-to tone for rock and roll, and that's what I have it set to right now. Now if I wanted to go like, clean or anything like that, I would have to adjust just my gain going down, and then maybe my reverb up a little bit. Okay, so now 2 knobs I adjusted to get a clean tone out of that. So let's go over how to find your specific tone. So I recommend setting all your knobs to 12 o'clock, except for your gain, and if you have reverb, I would turn it all the way down. So gain and reverb turn all the way down. If you're on a 2-channel amp, mine is a 1-channel, but if you're on a 2-channel amp, I would turn it on the clean channel. Usually there's a little button or a switch that'll say drive or dirty / clean. Make sure it's on whatever setting would make it clean. Then turn your volume, your low, your mid, your high about halfway. Some amps won't have a low, mid, and high. They'll have a just a low and a high, or just a contour. So if you have a contour, put it in the middle. If you just have low and high, again, halfway is good. And if you have 2 volumes, like a master and a just a regular volume, turn your volume all the way up and turn your master all the way down. Probably do it in the opposite order. Turn your master all the way down and then turn your volume all the way up, and then adjust the master just enough until you get to a sound that is comfortable wherever you are. Right? So if you're in a bedroom and you don't want to be playing super loud, get it to the level that is comfortable for you. And then I would turn the volume about halfway down and keep adjusting the master up. Okay, so once you have everything kind of set in the middle, 12 o'clock, we're going to go through adjusting our EQ. These are the most personable knobs that you can adjust on the amp. So for me personally, again, personable, my low, I always like to be a little higher than everything else. No irony really intended there for the low and high, but my low range notes, I like to be a little bit more pushed. Based on the first amp I ever used was a bass amp, so I really got used to a bassy tone when I learned to play guitar initially in my first year or so before I got a regular guitar amp. So because of that, I always like to have my low up. Now to adjust this, I'll play my low E and my A. And I'll play them individually. Okay, so now the low E is starting to push. I can feel it kind of like vibrating in the speakers. And that's kind of where I want that to be. Now if you don't like as much low end, you can obviously turn it down just a little bit. It's completely preference. Now a lot of people will like to have a little bit more mid-range, especially people that like to solo and improvise over music. So for mid-range, I do like a little bit more than halfway usually. But for that, I'm going to play my D and G string. So before I was playing E and A, now I'm playing D and G.
I think that's good right about there. Okay, so my low and my mid are set. Now I'll go to my high. My high is going to be my B and my high E string. So for me, high notes are always a little annoying in my opinion, just based on like how piercing they are, so they really cut through everything. So I like to turn my high a little bit down. Okay, so I feel like my high is at a pretty good point. So my low is roughly 2 o'clock, my mid is roughly 1 o'clock, and my high is about 10 or 11 o'clock. So with that in mind now, okay, volume's at a pretty comfortable range, so I'm going to leave that alone. I could turn it down just a little bit if I wanted to, but I think the 12 o'clock position is just enough. So now that I've adjusted my low, mid, and high, which are, like I said, the most personal knobs, I'll go ahead and go through everything again, make sure that, because each knob will slightly affect the strings that I wasn't mentioning. So like the high can still affect your E, A, D, and G string, and your mids can still affect your B and your high E, as well as your A and your low E. So just play with it a little bit. So I still feel like the low is good. I feel like my mid's a little more muffled than I want it to be. So I'm going to bump that up just a little bit. Okay. And then I feel like that's pretty good. My high's still good. Alright, that all sounds pretty good, again, for my personal preference. So my gain all the way down, low is going to be up at about 2 o'clock, mid about 2 o'clock, high at about 10 o'clock, volume is at 12, my reverb's all the way down. Now in my personal preference, again, you can adjust reverb to however you like it, and then adjust if you ever need to like change, like if you're using all the reverb in the song and then all of a sudden you're playing a song with no reverb, you can adjust the reverb afterwards. But for me, I like to have my reverb up a little bit, so I'm going to do about let's say 9 o'clock. Alright, that sounds pretty good. Just a little bit of feedback, but not anything crazy. So once you've gone through and done that, make sure it sounds good on every single pickup. I'm not going to do that on my guitar because I know that those settings are pretty close to what I want on every single pickup. And of course, you can always adjust per pickup and then just keep it written down. Some amps will allow you to save presets, so you can save a preset for each pickup if you wanted to. For mine, it's very basic. You adjust the knobs, and that's exactly how it's going to be. And in order to do anything else, you have to adjust the knobs again. So, but this is how I like my amps to be set up. I hope you found this video helpful on your first intro of toneology and getting your own tone out of the amp that you have. Thank you so much for watching the video lesson, guys, and I will see you in the next one.